Hey, welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Videos. Excuse the Dutch angle. Got a few renovations going on in the old Heroes and Videos studio. We're going to be looking at last week's comics this week. I guess they're still this week's comics, but they've been out for a few days. Also got speaking of something that's been out for a few days, going to have that brand new day Spider-Man spoiler-filled review up soon. Lanterns is out. Check that out on Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock. Damon Lindelhoff has done it again. Damon, I am sure you're a fan of the show, so keep up the great work. I am one of these days going to start yet another Lost rewatch. So I've had at least 3 or not 4 of those things over the years, plus saw it live. In my opinion, greatest show of all time, but that's my opinion. Your mileage may vary. Let's get into these and hit like, subscribe, all that wonderful YouTube stuff. You know the drill, right? This is not your first rodeo. Speaking of rodeos, Lanterns gives me that kind of rodeo small town feel, which is pretty cool. I can't wait to talk more about that, so check it out. We've got some really cool stuff come up in new comics here. A number of variant covers. We've got some X-Men. We've got World's Finest. We've got Thor hits a major milestone. And stick around to the end of the show because we're going to be talking about that, as well as Marvel's latest event comic. Not the latest, I guess. Queen in Black is the latest one, but this one started a little before that, and it looks to reshape the Marvel Universe. So it's really good. I'm very impressed with that. So let's get right to it. The first one we're going to look at is World's Finest 54. This is baseball. This is a one-shot, which is kind of cool. There's a baseball theme going on here, and yes, that is indeed the Demon Etrigan that's serving as umpire. I should have done this as a rhyme, I guess. That's his thing, right? But it's a Dan Mora cover. We're going to be talking in an upcoming video on back issues about covers, judging a book by their cover, and how a lot of times they'll put the superstar artist on the cover, and the artist on the inside is a different artist. In this case, it is Frenda, I think is the artist's last name. I didn't notice missing a beat. The inside of this book is really pretty to look at. Let's take a quick gander at that, shall we? It is a baseball game, and it's a one-off. This video is going to contain some mild spoilers for the books, but nothing too much. Gave me at the very beginning kind of a DCKO feel with a lot of heroes showing up there. I don't know why we've got booty shot of Black Lightning right there, kind of in the foreground. But you see Zatanna, a Metamorpho, Big Barda, Robin, and they've gone to. It's a baseball game in Hades, and it lays out who's playing what position. It's really neat. It's set up very well. I don't know a lot about DC's. What's the word I'm looking for? Not pantheon, but the religion. But what I do know is I believe in DC. Hades is a real thing, and the devil is a real thing. He's Neron, I believe, is the name of the character. But this is and that I do love how that baseball is just out of focus, because it's flying so fast. There's a great little bit in here where Batman is convincing the other players to win at all costs, like do whatever you need to do, because there's a major international conflict at stake, and apparently with what's going on in Hades, the impact of this baseball game will affect reality and affect what's going on with this war between nations. So, and it's a conflict in the Middle East, I believe, if I've got my DC fictional countries correct. But it's really neat how it plays out, because Superman is the one guy that's not going to. He's going to play fair. He's going to play within the rules because that's what he does, which is pretty neat. And it is also neat. There's some interesting, I don't want to say theological questions in there. Theological, what's what I'm looking for? Maybe ethical. Maybe not strong enough of a word, but they're actually playing at Hades. So there's some souls there from folks that have passed on, and maybe they didn't make the best choices in life. And so that's part of the theme as well as redemption. Oh, Superman says something really neat in it. He says, I've forgotten the line. Hang on. I'm going to look in this variant cover. Oh, let's take that out of the plastic. Hang on. Bear with me for just a moment. This is just still a lot of glare. But I just love that cover. Huge fan of Dick Grayson Robin. I love how they've retroactively added the long pants. There's not much There's not much of Dick Grayson running around in shorts, which I think is a great choice. Best thing they ever did with Tim Drake was have the long pants on the costume. But I love how these variant covers also include the regular cover, which makes me wonder why I'm buying both. But let's see, there's a page in here where he says something, because Batman says something along the lines of Clark. Oh, here it is. Great line, and I need to set up these things, or maybe I'll edit in the actual page so you can see it. There's a baseball player there, and he's one of the dearly departed, and he's in Hades because he gambled on sports. He made some bad decisions. Seems like Superman is actually surprised to see him there, and I think he played for the Gotham Knights, and so what is it? Oh, here it is. Robin says, it was Robin, it's not Batman. Robin says, "I'm sorry you had to go through this with us, Superman. I know you said you don't believe in hell, but," and Superman interrupts him to say, maybe the line of the book, "What I said was, I don't believe anyone is eternally beyond redemption. Not even you, Steve," who's the baseball player. And so that's part of the interaction, in terms of Steve. It's really Steve's story here. But I just love that line where Robin says, Superman doesn't believe in hell. And Superman stops him and says, "What I said was, I don't believe anyone is eternally beyond redemption." And that's just like Superman, right? The big blue Boy Scout, and just to have that attitude. And I think it's an amazing attitude. Theologically, it's a pretty fascinating one. So not to get too deep on you from a religious standpoint, but it's just really cool to see that message of no one is beyond redemption. It's a pretty powerful message, particularly in Christianity. Next up, do you guys remember, this is a Reborn Ultimate Impact. It's the 4th of 5 issues. You guys remember when Marvel did it wasn't the New Gods, Marvel did the Young Gods. Remember that? When they introduced all these new characters with all these new powers all at once. And do you remember, what's the other one? When the Infinity Gauntlet a few years ago, like those Infinity Gems, Infinity Stones, all of a sudden became part of a whole new group of characters. So there's 5 or 6 brand new characters with new powers and everything. You remember just how exciting and how cool that was? Yeah, I don't either, because it wasn't. Sorry, not to throw shade at a couple of story ideas that I'm sure somebody put a lot of effort into. And, bless them. I really feel for anybody that can do anything creatively. Good for them. I'm glad they took their shot, but it didn't do it for me then. It's not doing it for me now. I'm enjoying the book. I should say that. But and in this case, there's little power boxes. These things, sort of like mother boxes that Miles Morales brought over from the most recent iteration of the Ultimate Universe, I believe, and they all got stolen, or the Spot or somebody did something with them, and so they've ended up in the hands of a number of, let's say, ordinary people, right? And everybody's treating their power they get differently. Some of them are using it well, and some of them are using their powers not so well. And I think it's just a neat, that's always kind of a neat litmus test. And I am enjoying this way more than those other 2 storylines that I mentioned. I'm trying to find the name of here it is, the name of the villain, or one of the villains, this guy over here on the side, Hostilicus. And then there's one, I was just reading the new Captain Marvel book, Captain Marvel Past Lives, or Dark Lives, Past Lives, something like that. And I'm enjoying that book, but I think the villain is Desecrator, Hostilicus. I don't know if you guys like to write and draw comics in your youth, and when I say youth, I'm talking about 7, 8, 9 years old, maybe middle school, but probably more like elementary school. And even then, you'd pick a word and you'd make it into a villain, Desecrator, Hostilicus, any of those things. Even the stuff you were coming up with then, it just feels like it sounds better than that. Somebody at Marvel Editorial, just stop. When somebody comes up with a name like I can't think of one off the top of my head. I guess that's why I'm not a comic writer, right? Hostilicus, Desecrator, what's another good, Annihilator. It doesn't, Annihilator. I mean, I get Annihilus is in that same ballpark and is a great character, I think. But yeah, not. I'm gonna finish this out because there's only one more issue, but I didn't. I don't think the concept is all that. One of the characters is basically Kilgrave. His power is just telling people what to do and they do it. Come on, Marvel, you can do better. And I just showed you World's Finest ahead of that, right? Look at what Mark Waid's doing and, run with that. Next up is a wonderful variant cover for Daredevil. I believe this is Daredevil number 5, the new volume. That's not what it's called. It's not like Spaceballs, the next one. The coming next year, by the way. This is just a cool. It's an Alex Ross cover, but it's kind of in that Gene Colan style from the Daredevils when he was in like the 50s and 60s number issues of his book, and I just thought the style was just really cool, and the fact it's just so red. This wraps up a 5-issue storyline, and of course it's continued, or the seeds of the continuation are out there. What I love is the next issue, and I know I'm flipping all of these things open, but there's an ad for the next issue that just looks really, really cool. Okay, I might have fudged about the lightning round thing a little bit because I know we're deep into it. But if you've been invested this long, hang in there because the really good stuff's coming up. The ad for the next issue has got, I believe that's Silvermane at the bottom in the armor, and then Hammerhead and Tombstone and Daredevil. So kudos, Marvel. I know I was just giving Marvel editorial a hard time for the vocabulary choices for some of these villains, but kudos for Marvel to be going with the Frank Miller Kingpin thing, right? Miller brought Kingpin over from Spider-Man to Daredevil with some street level stuff, and now Tombstone, Hammerhead, Silvermane. Let's do a gang war with Spider-Man villains. I mean, I feel like that's pretty cool. Daredevil showed up in Spider-Man when they do that. It works so well with Kingpin. Let's bring some more of that gang level crew over to Daredevil and see how that clicks. I mean, it's been a really good book, and this latest storyline, I'm looking forward to that next issue as well. Uncanny X-Men continues to be a banger. These are the New Orleans X-Men. This is Wild Ride Part 2, Uncanny X-Men 34, legacy numbering 7, I think. So hot on the heels of Thor, which is coming up on, it just came out. Well, we'll be talking about that in a minute. Wonderful cover. Gambit is having some issues. This is the one with Father Gabriel, I think, is in here, kind of like a Constantine type character. Gambit is having some real issues. He's got a hold of the left eye of Agamotto. I didn't remember that in the last video, but it's actually the left eye, which feels weird. It feels like Destiny's Child should be involved there somewhere. It is apparently his left eye, as I'm seeing here on the cover, but I just thought that was a really cool cover. The book is something else. It's dealing with the kids, those new mutants that they've taken in. I've forgotten M's name again already. It's what was the character's name? I gotta look that up. Sorry, we're going deep into the books this week. So here we go. It starts with an M. It's going to be on that update page, I bet. Of course, it is not. But Gambit's got, like, he's going through this transition. He's got, like, demon wings. He's looking all, crazy. What is her name? This is the lady right here. There in the white next to Wolverine. It's an M, and why can't I think of it? She and Quicksilver are a couple. Oh my goodness. It's not Monique. It's, what's her name? You guys help me in the comments. But this is a really sweet story. And sorry for the mild spoilers. I warned you. It's a really sweet story about this mutant over here. It looks like a little dog boy kind of thing. And it's a really great story about the X-Men taking in people that maybe not everybody else would. Rogue's a great example, and that there's a comment in here where that character, what is her name? Oh, come on, where's Jim Shooter where we need him? Where everybody explains in every issue what their name is and what their powers are. It's sad, this dog boy story. It's something. Oh, what is her name? All right, well, tell me in the comments if somebody remembers her name. It's a really cool name. It starts with an M. It's not Monique. It's It escapes me, but it's great character, and been very impressed with her and Quicksilver and the struggles they're having, trying to help guide these kids in the absence of Gambit and Rogue, because Gambit and Rogue are off doing their own thing, trying to take care of Gambit's literal demons that seem to be possessing him. Speaking of variant covers, this was a variant cover for that same book. Just thought it was really cool. I mean, it's just such a pretty Jubilee cover. I was never a big Jubilee fan. She was created basically, I think, to be the new Kitty Pryde, or the new young character at that time in Uncanny X-Men. The color scheme was definitely supposed to be Robin at the time, because it was, red and yellow and green. But she's grown into her own as a character. She is an adult now. She's not a teen anymore. And sometimes that makes Wolverine a little uncomfortable. The fact that she's all grown up. I think she's been a vampire at one point. I want to say she's had a kid, or has a kid, but I don't recall, because I wasn't following the book at that point much. But just a beautiful, beautiful variant cover. So now we're up to the last couple of books. Thor is having an anniversary, and it is, you guys remember, there was the Immortal Thor, which is just a phenomenal book, just kind of like Immortal Hulk. It was really, really good. It was very mythic. Took us back to like the Walt Simonson days, at least for me, except with more of a painted Alex Ross kind of feel in terms of these stories. Meant, everything was about myth. Everything seemed to have huge, huge stakes in terms of the world. And then at the end of that Immortal Thor series, ironically, Thor was killed by Loki, even. And then the Mortal Thor began in the current volume. This was 14 issues ago, and it was with the character Sigurd Jarlsson, whom you will also remember from the Walt Simonson book. And there's a lot of mystery around what's going on. There's a Donald Blake character that seems to be evil, Roxxon, and the Minotaur, that's head of Roxxon, whose name escapes me, showed up. A lot of old Thor villains like Radioactive Man, Cobra, Mr. Hyde. A lot of those old school Thor villains showed up, and this guy's just a mortal with a hammer, and which when you put that in the real world is a pretty gruesome weapon to be carrying. This is the Mortal Thor 800, and it's Thor's 800th issue, which technically not, because the first 82 issues were Journey into Mystery, right? But with the next issue, this doesn't wrap up the Mortal Thor story. However, the next issue is going to be just called Thor, and they're keeping the legacy numbering, which I thought was an interesting choice. So it's going to be Thor 801 coming out next month. They do I won't spoil this, but they have an interesting story technique they use in this, and I thought it was a little weird, because it's exactly the same thing they used regarding Thor's son that's in Asgard at this point, the actual Thor's son, who was ruling Asgard, and the Enchantress. There's a storytelling technique or point. Something happens in a recent issue of this, maybe even the last issue or a couple issues before, where and they use literally the same thing in this, which I thought was a little weird, because it caught me off guard the first time. It caught me off guard in this one too, in terms of, I thought, well, maybe that's just what they're doing, until I realized it's not. Oh, and the Midgard Serpent shows up in this too. So really good book. I talked a little bit about Simonson's run there, because we seem to be on a variant cover kick here this week. This is the Mighty Thor. Well, this actually just says Mighty Thor, even though technically it's the Mortal Thor, but it's Thor 800, 14th, I guess I should say, in that Mortal Thor run. And it's Walt Simonson cover. And a thing I thought was really cool down here, this almost looks, see if you can see it, that almost looks like Ron Friend's art on that Thor, but it's all Simonson. I don't see anything else on here that indicates anybody else is doing it. The other really cool thing, see the Silver Surfer over here? That's kind of that's kind of a recreation of that Silver Surfer number 4 cover, which is such an iconic cover. And it's kind of cool that it's so iconic, even though it was a Silver Surfer cover, that Walt Simonson included it on this. Of course, you see Beta Ray Bill's over there, Asgardian Asgardian Storm, Ulix at the top. I just think it's just a beautiful, beautiful cover. It looks kind of like a wraparound. It is not. And I figured I picked it up because I'm going to Baltimore in a few weeks, and maybe we'll see if Walt Simonson would sign that. Now, last book, and I know I've been saying last two books, and that one was two books, but it's a variant cover. This is, oh, huh. I thought this was the variant cover for Avengers Armageddon, but I don't see variant cover listed on here anywhere. So we're going to look, in talking about the book here for a moment, we're going to look at an actual variant cover. That just feels like a variant cover to me, but I will say this, the one spoiler I'll give you for the book is this cover and the next one are comic accurate in terms of something that goes on in the book. Other than maybe he might have said that before that happened to him, because I'm not sure he's speaking much after what we see in the book. This is the one I picked up that I thought was the main cover. You see, can't even think of the gentleman's name. He was a super soldier, and he showed up in the Captain America volume when that began. He was Captain America prior to Steve Rogers being thawed out or coming out of suspended animation, and that's reflected in Iron Man's faceplate there, and you see those are his fists. He's with one of those mother boxes we were talking about earlier in Ultimate Impact. Apparently he is super powerful. He's basically Hyperion. He's Superman. He's the Sentry without the baggage. He's got baggage, but just not void baggage. And and this book is about how the heroes need to figure out what to do with someone that powerful. This book is really good. It doesn't feel as paint by the numbers, though there is something in the backup that makes it feel a little like that. But it's really good. The idea being it starts off with Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross taking over Latveria in the name of New America against the wishes of the American government. He's gone in and taken over Latveria in Doom's absence and created a new country. And he's basically saying it's a little like what Doom was doing, except Doom was being more of a benevolent tyrant. He's saying, Ross is saying, hey, we're gonna by force, we're gonna make the world all become democracies. So that has its own issues with it in terms of choice or lack of choice, and then it very quickly moves from that story into what do you do when one of these heroes is so powerful and he decides to take things into his own hands and again decide what's best for the world without their choice. Winter Soldier's a big player in it. Wolverine's a big player in it. Spider-Man, it feels like, is going to be a big player in it. Of course, Tony Stark, Iron Man. It's really good. And then the backup that's in a number of books this month for Marvel is a few pages of a story with Spider-Man talking to Luke Cage, who is currently the mayor of New York City. And I think it's leading up to it. It's showing us a little preview of what's going to happen in the New Avengers. Actually, I'm not sure it's called New Avengers. In the Avengers comic that debuts in October. And it's interesting because they redacted the things. And that's the part that feels a little like formulaic Marvel event, because it's redacted where Spider-Man's talking to Luke and he says something like, well, after blank dying and blank with blank, I mean, it feels like that's hitting a few of the check boxes, like somebody's going to die, something bad's going to happen to somebody else, somebody new is going to show up, that kind of thing. But it's pretty neat. So check out Avengers Armageddon if you haven't already. It's a really good book, and it's not too late to get the last couple issues before the fourth issue, which I believe is the conclusion leading into that Avengers book that starts again with #1 this fall. That is it for this episode of Heroes and Videos. As always, again, hit like. Love for you to subscribe to the channel, hit notifications so you know when new content drops. Got a really cool back issue episode I'm putting together, because I did just pick up some really awesome back issues. Probably be some of the last back issues I pick up since Baltimore is right around the corner. I want to, need to not buy a whole bunch of stuff before I go to buy some stuff. You guys know how that works, right? As comic fans. So, as always, keep reading comics, keep going to see movies in theaters, and be kind to each other.